All right, today I've got screws. I have screws like these ones already holding my door hinges in place. And, you know, they don't look absolutely awful. They've definitely got surface rust and, you know, some pitting and whatnot, and the hex fits in pretty tight. Threads are not too terrible, but I've already had trouble with a couple of these things getting them out without destroying the hex, the female side of the hex. And so I looked online to see, well, what would it cost me to replace these? What would it cost you to replace them with the right screws that you can find on the one specialty site that I was able to find that has them? The answer is $120. I kid you not. So there are 6 screws on each door. This is an older hinge that takes 3 screws per hinge, 2 hinges on each side, 12 screws. So $10 a screw is what that comes out to. And it's a fairly specific screw. It was not too terribly difficult to find something exactly like this, except with a very, very slightly smaller diameter head. You know, typical, you know, button cap hex, 10 millimeters long. But I thought, geez, you know, slightly smaller diameter, maybe it would be just fine. But I just kept thinking, you know, they didn't really design anything on these cars for no reason. And so I thought, man, I would really hate to, you know, potentially compromise things by going with a smaller diameter. So what I was able to find that is extremely close, same length and type thread, obviously, you know, I'm not going to put in the wrong size thread. And it is also hex, and it's kind of like the button head. I forget what they call it, but, you know, it's more or less like a button head up until the point where, you know, you get down to this part where it's almost like it has like an integrated washer into the head. And it is slightly shallower head when you know, measure from the bottom of this washer. It's not really a washer, the bottom of the head to the top of it. It's actually slightly shallower than this. And that is important because some of the other ones I found were going to be deeper, and it would stick out too far. You wouldn't, you know, be able to put the cap on that covers it all up. And other than that, it is a 5 millimeter hex instead of a 6 millimeter hex. So those things being the, you know, the big differences, I decided let's go ahead and give it a shot. Let's go with these slightly different 5 millimeter hex heads, and so that's what I've done here. And I've already pulled a couple of screws out. One I pulled out to take measurements from, and now it's somewhere in the house, I don't know. And the other one I took out just moments ago to be able to use on the camera here right now. And so basically I'm just gonna remove these things one at a time and put the new ones in their place semi-loosely to begin with, because here's the thing on this door. As you might be able to see, I have already begun to put in, oh, it's so lovely, the expensive German rubber. And then as I was getting into the process, actually just before starting the process, I realized, oh, wait a second, I still don't have all the pieces to this kit. And so I've got the felts and I've got the inside scrapers and all that. What I lacked is the outside scrapers, and the outside scrapers include this, I don't guess it's really chrome, maybe it is chrome plated, trim around the outside. It goes, you know, from here all the way around up into here, most of the opening of the door. And so, you know, putting that in later, obviously everything would have to come out again. And so I decided, well, rather than finish everything and put everything together and then have to pull my felt out later and possibly mess it up, I said, well, okay, I'm just gonna wait. So at this time, I only have the rubber in the vent window and around the outside of the door. And when I went to close the door, okay, it takes a fair bit of force just to get it to partially close. What it takes to get it to fully close is absurd, and I just can't bring myself to do it. It just feels very wrong. And then when you, oh golly, I mean, it's just a lot of tension in there. And so I decided, hopefully I'm right, you know, the way to fix this would be to adjust the door at the hinges here and you know, cause the door to kind of come out a little bit more at the front, and you know, less tension on here, because I'm fairly certain that I have this rubber all, you know, pushed in as far as it's supposed to be all the way around, and so I think the issue really is that it's binding at the front. I think that's really what's causing this issue. So let's hope that I'm right, and I will continue to replace more of these screws. Now, this is, a lot of these I've already loosened. Actually, all of these ones I have loosened once before, and I went through them and I took a wire wheel to them and put oil on the threads and everything. And so, in theory, they should all come out relatively easily. But when I went to do this, you know, when I was putting the rubber in so that I could, you know, try to apply this resolution that I've decided of adjusting this hinge, I forget which one it is down here. One of these guys, boy, it's it doesn't seem like it wants to come out. And unfortunately, on the driver's door, you know, what would be ideal would be to have, you know, the driver out this direction and, you know, just push down on it, and, you know, everything is great. But instead, you know, you either kind of have to be up here somewhere or over here, you know, to loosen it. Unless you want to come way out here, you know, I could put a longer extension, but the longer the extension you put on, the more flex you get. And really, if anything, I want to be, you know, tighter. I want to be right in there, you know. So instead I'm, you know, lifting, which is not ideal. But we'll just, this one's good. A little tight. I don't really love the feeling of those threads. So I'm going to be happy to replace the screw here, and hopefully the new screw will be less tight, and I'll say, great, it wasn't the female thread in the hinge, it is the screw that needed fixing there. We'll find out. So yes, the diameter, you know what, even as I start screwing this in, I'm really wishing that I had a tap that was the right size, which I definitely do not. What is nice, I forgot to mention this part. Okay, so I could have paid, you know, $120 before shipping, before tax, for the right screws. These guys shipped to me for 25 screws, more than twice what I actually need to do the job, was $25. So with shipping and everything, they were $1 a piece instead of $10 a piece before tax and shipping. So if I do screw this one up, because these threads are not great, well, I've got plenty of extras, and so I can come back in later and clean up these threads. My father-in-law has a fantastic set of tap and die for metric. I do not. Threads are going in okay. They're just not really smooth like I'd like them to be. Let's get a little looser. All right, call that good. So I've got 5 out of the, I've got 4 out of the 6. And so one of these other 2 here is the one that really didn't want to come out last time. And yeah, it's not this one, because this one turned pretty easily. So this other one over here, I'm just gonna, I don't know, start praying to the god of threads or something, patron saint of classic automobiles, I don't know, something. Might as well get 2 screws out this time instead of just 1, so I don't have to reach back in. Let's see. And yeah, that last one I just pulled out, it was pretty tight too, which, not awful, but just kind of tight. So this one's going in a little bit tight. Oh well. All right, now, moment of truth. I do not want to screw this thing up and wind up with the scenario like I did on my passenger door, where the darn thing actually broke. It's awful. Still don't have that fully resolved. Damn it. Yeah, so it just jacked up the hex, the female hex on that. It was already weakened before the last time I did this, so without having my buddy come over with his welder and hook me up in that way, one thing I could do is try to, sure I probably somewhere have a larger size hex, you know, like a standard hex key that I could maybe grind down and taper into that hole, and see if there's any hope of getting it out that way. I don't know. We'll have to see. All right, the search will begin now. All right, so I took some measurements and found that 1/4 of an inch would be, it's like 6.4 millimeter, and so well, maybe that'll work. And sure enough, man, I mean, like, it went in pretty good and tight, you know, and I kind of used a little ultra violence to get it to, you know, sort of bottom out in there the best I could. And ultimately it just wound up slipping too, so that was a no-go. So now I'm at the mercy of my friend who has a welder and knows how to use it well and all of these fun things. But I did get 5 out of the 6 screws replaced, and you know, you can look in and see, you probably won't be able to see from your distance, I'll bring it up here. These screws make it really obvious that the top of the door has been able to swing out a fair bit. But of course it's, you know, all just sort of pivoting on this guy that, you know, won't give up the ghost. And so it's not quite where it should be, but it is a bit easier to close the door. Partially, mind you, enough to where it latches. And so I'll bring you up here and show you. Let's see, here we go. So here's these beautiful screws in place, and you can, yeah, you can see the metal to the right of that screw where the old screw had scraped the rust. And mind you, that was also a smaller diameter screw, so it's sticking out several millimeters from, you know, where it used to be. But we've got that little bastard there, just will not give it up. And let's see here, let's give a couple examples where, oh yeah, they're up here already. So, yeah, here's these guys lined up. You know, these look shorter, and overall they are, but the length from the bottom of the screw head to the tip of the screw is the same. So if we did that, I don't know that they're going to stay up. It's kind of a curved roof, obviously. There you go. Gonna get a little better coming at it from an angle still. I'm not quite down on the same level, but there you go. That's maybe a little closer. So that's the deal. Hopefully my buddy will be able to come over soon and fix up this little problem, and then I'll be able to adjust this door and everything will be great. And then I'll put the effort into figuring out what in the holy heck needs to be done with the screw that got destroyed in the passenger door. But anyway, that's it for now. And I don't know what I'm doing next. Maybe continue to try to work on getting the horn working, or lots and lots of things that could be done. But that's it for now. Thanks for joining.